Hey everyone, so this is the update, the latest version of this thing I've been creating, and I need a new name for it. And at first I apologize, I'm sitting outside, it's a nice day, so I'm sitting outside to make this video. There's other noises, so I apologize for that. So the first thing is I've changed the name just to Game Data Editor. This is supposed to be Space Studios Game Data Editor, and Master Data Editor right there, that's the new name of it. First thing you have to do is add in a scriptable object. You do that there, and you can also create an object, scriptable object, I believe, in one of these menus. I'm not sure which one. Oh, it's this one. Create. It's one of these. Ah, there it is. Create master data object to create a new one. Once you load that up, it's got all your data. And this is the data that's for pretty much everything in the game, and you can see it here listed in the boring, hard to read form. And this will show only what's showing in the inspector. There's a lot of hidden variables. So first thing here is that you've got the ability to add new categories, little instructions or helpful tips. So you can add new categories, so we can call this like test class. Add that there. It'll automatically switch you to test class, but you can switch to any of the categories just by moving this here. That way they're a little bit easier to see rather than having a big long list like this. In the inspector, you've got just the ones you're looking at. So there's pretty cool stuff you can do with this. You can, of course, you've got category options for changing the name. Now, you can't change it to anything that has the same name, so you can't have two classes of the same name. But you can do this like test demo class, and you can change the name to that. You can also delete it. It'll ask you if you want to delete it and all that nice stuff. So let's add it again. And then you can add items to it, and each item can be something else. So like test item 1. Again, you can't add two items of the same name, but you can change it later because I don't think that will actually cause a problem. So you can add a few items here. Test item, test item 3. And then each one of those has a name that you can just change instantly. So test item 2, etc. So we'll keep that as test item 3. But you can also add custom variables, and this is where it gets more powerful. So the variables, you could add like an integer, so you can be like number variable, and add that. And then for each one of these, there's a number variable that you can just change. And you can call this pretty easily with the dot notation, just master.data. And then there will be a function to get it based on the name of the class. So if you know it's called test class, master data get ID test class dot item, and you can go through all the items. Item dot number variable ID. Again, human readable names are important, so you can just use those rather than remembering the actual number for each one, especially since they can change over time. If I add like a Boolean variable and a string variable, we've got all these things here, so each one's got all those options, and they're all called number variable. I accidentally did that because you can change the name right there. So let's say I'm like, oh shoot, I want to delete the Boolean, so you delete that. So the ID number of these have changed, but the name has stayed the same. So I guess I should probably have it so that you can't have two of the same name, probably, huh? But anyways, so you can delete those, and then you can also include other classes here. So do a real world test here.
The time, there is no one on the phone.
We'll switch over to the classes. So we've got an archer class here. Our custom variables, there's only one, that's null skill. I'm going to delete that for now and redo it. So we've got an archer. He's not supposed to have any variables to me. Main data, no, just data. There's a lot of old stuff sitting here. Classes, just reset that to 0. Okay, so we're going to add a new class, and we'll call this an archer, and we'll also add a knight and a wizard. And then, so each one just has the name right now. We need to add custom variables. So we're going to add a couple of things. We're going to add a string. We'll call this description. And now for each one, like this is an archer, and then this is a knight. We can use that in the game if we want, or however you want. It doesn't really matter what the variables are. You can use them however you want. And then I'm going to add a thing on stats. I'm going to add a stats list. I'm going to add a stats list with an integer. And we're going to call this starting stats. So now each one of these, close this for now, close the custom variables for now. Each one of these has now a list of starting stats. There's an integer, so you can't you can only do whole numbers. So I could use this as like their starting stats for each character. So it might be the archer starts with the might of 12, stamina of 12, wisdom of 15, personality of 8 because he's a nasty archer, but he's really good, so he's got 19 accuracy, a 16 speed, and a 10 luck. And so, each one can have their starting stats. The knight can have different starting stats and whatnot. And the stats here are actually based on the stats class right over here. And so if I want to add a new stat, say hair growth, so now we can add that stat there. Hair growth is just right here. They've got a custom variable for just a value as a float. I can use that if I want to. If I go back to classes now, all of my classes all have a section for hair growth here. So I can adjust those as well. So you can reference the other classes inside each class. And you can also do things like if we go to my start default names, these are going to be names that you can choose when you start the game based on whatever race and gender you are. You can choose these names. So let's delete Andrew for now, and let's add a new name. We'll call this Sir Lancelot, and we'll add Robin Hood and Lady Robin Hood. So now we can add custom variables. So we could add for races a single, and we have to name it. So this is going to be the race. We'll just call it race. And then we'll add a gender, also a single, a gender. Singles don't give you a list. Singles just give you a drop down where you can choose one of the races, and we'll say if human male, Robin Hood is going to be an elf male, and Lady Robin Hood will be an elf female. So now we have starting names, and I can reference this in my script to say, hey, search for they're all default names for human males, and choose a random one from that new list that I populate based on all the human male names from this class right here. And again, if I go to my genders, I can see I've got male and female. I can add a new one called non-gendered, and go back to my default names, and I can say Pat is a new, not a custom variable, add a new item, Pat, add that item, and then down here we can say Pat. Oh, I've got a bug.
So she was excited about that.
So I fixed the bug. So now we can add Pat, and sure enough, we've got Pat can be half-orc and non-gendered. And any of these can now be non-gendered too, so we've got that new list. Now, there's a cool thing where, let's say I want to get rid of non-gendered item, the gender of non-gendered, so I go back to my genders, and I've got non-gendered here. I can delete this item. So let's say yes, and then it's going to give me this warning. It's going to say that this item was referenced as a data single in default names Pat, and the value has been reset to 0. So now if I go back to default names, just in case I forgot that I had set Pat to non-gendered, now he's got male and female. If I delete both of them, I can actually do this. Let me do this in a test. Actually, yeah, we'll just do it in this. I'm going to delete both of the genders now, the other genders. So delete female, get a warning about Lady Robin Hood, and we'll also delete males. And since this is a different warning now, it's going to say the data single is actually removed because there's no more gender items. So if we go back to the default names, there would be no option for gender to choose, and so it's just removed it completely. So we can add it back again. Just add gender single, and we'll call it gender. Add that again. Of course, there's no options here. But if we go back to genders and category options, delete genders, and we go back, it's going to go back to the main data by default because genders is gone. So I go back to default names, and that was supposed to be deleted too. Try this again. We've got the gender here. I've re-added gender in the class list. So we can go down to gender. Let's delete gender and go back to our default names. And sure enough, it's gone from both the custom variable list up here and the items down here. So it's pretty nice. It's this whole system is, it's definitely easier to set up game data with this way. And my next step is to start working with it, building some sort of game-like thing. I'm going to redo the character creation scene that I created before, but using this new system, and figure out how to link this to player data and make sure it's all working. I'm probably going to have to add some new variables so that if we add, skills, that's weird. Oh yeah. So if we add skills, we can have more than just float, int, bool, and string. We can also have a game object and texture 2D and things like that, so that you can actually have prefabs. So that if you have a skills, you might have a texture 2D for the icon. If you have a spells or items, you might have a custom variable that will be like prefabs. So rather than a list, but just one of these, just a game object, so you can throw a prefab in there. That'll be your model prefab for instantiating or whatnot. So I need to have more options than just these, but I think as I get through, I can add those as I need them, because I'm really not sure how many I'll need. I'll definitely need audio clips and stuff like that, but I also need a new name for this, because I started out making a first-person RPG framework, and I ended up creating something that's actually far more versatile. This system could be used for any game, so I'm not sure what to call it. Let me know what you think. All right, thanks, bye.